Happy Irvo. Hello. Thank you very much for joining me today. Although this isn't so much of a happy story, not at all. It's the opposite of a happy story. This is like a disaster. Basically, I was looking up amusement parks. I realized I haven't really reacted to much amusement parks in Australia, so I was really curious to look them up. So the first one listed was Dream World, and everything I was looking up just was about, it just kept saying, the Dream World disaster, the Dream World accident. So now I need to know what that is. And it does not sound good. I guess it happened about 7 years ago. And this is a video about it by The Fascinating Horror. Link down below. Go check out their channel. I already know apparently 4 people died, which is horrifying because, well, just in general, that's horrifying. But for an amusement park, like malfunction or something, usually one person, maybe, but 4? That's horrible. So let's go. Check out their channel, link down below. I already skipped through the intro just because it was like about the theme park and about it opening and stuff. And this is the part I think they're going to get into the actual incident. But go check out the full video down below.
The basic design of the ride might be familiar to any theme park enthusiast, as it resembles hundreds of other river rapids rides around the world.
This is one of the most fun rides at any amusement park.
Many rides of this type in other parks are designed and built by Intamin, a well-known and reputable ride design and manufacturing company. The River Rapids ride at Dreamworld, however, was custom built by the park itself. Riders at Dreamworld would board circular
Damn, I wonder why. Maybe there's logistical reasons for that type of thing. You know, building an amusement park in Australia, it's got to be a little bit more of a logistical, difficult thing to do. Just because it's hard to, you know, it's more isolated.
And rafts from a constantly rotating station platform, which allowed easy boarding without boats having to come to a complete stop. Once dispatched,
that always felt a little bit dangerous, I'm not going to lie, but, you know, nothing too crazy.
Each raft would travel at a modest pace along a watercourse that included a tunnel and several sections of simulated whitewater rapids. Boats.
And to be honest, this always seemed like the least dangerous ride on at any park. Like, I can't believe this ride is what caused the disaster.
Were bumped, jostled, and splashed unpredictably as they moved along a curving channel.
Okay.
Part of the fun of the ride arose from the fact that some riders would inevitably get wetter than others.
Indeed.
The course of the ride was on a gentle downward.
I like how this guy talks. I hate to be laughing at such a serious thing, but it was just funny to me. Some riders get wetter, and apparently they find that fun. Yeah, because when you're with your friends or whatever, you're trying to you're like, oh, like I'm gonna get you underneath the waterfall, you know. It's a fun ride.
Gradient. This was what caused the water within the channel to flow, thus conveying the boats along without the need for an onboard propulsion system. Naturally, this meant that, by the end of the ride, rafts would need to be lifted back up to the station before they could be sent around again.
Makes sense. You know, this ride actually malfunctioned, this type of ride malfunctioned at Six Flags just this week, I just realized. Nobody died, but
at Dreamworld, this was achieved by means of a conveyor belt. Boats were guided onto it and carried upwards with guests still on board.
Okay.
When it reached the top and returned to the station, guests would disboard back onto the rotating station platform. Just as the rafts needed to be lifted back up at the end of a circuit, so too did the water, something normally achieved by 2 powerful water pumps.
I see.
On the 25th of October 2016...
Wouldn't it just be continuously doing that?
One of these pumps failed, which caused the water level in the ride to drop significantly.
Okay.
This resulted in a raft which had just reached the top of the conveyor belt becoming stranded on support rails. There wasn't enough water in the channel to carry it onwards. And
This is very eerie, I have to say. Like, I do not know what happened, and I'm just... First of all, this conveyor belt looks scary, just knowing something did happen. But it's like, what the heck happened?
there wasn't enough water in the channel to carry it onward.
I'm sorry, I did not follow that. There wasn't enough water.
In a raft which had just reached the top of the conveyor belt, becoming stranded on support rails. There wasn't enough water in the channel to carry it onwards.
Okay.
And so it was
supposed to be floating on the water once it got to the top, but there was not enough water. Got it.
stuck just short of the ride station. The conveyor belt, however, continued to move, carrying up another raft. This raft, holding 6 guests, collided with Raft 1, causing both to pivot upwards. Raft 1 fell back into a horizontal position, while the continued movement of the conveyor belt forced Raft 2 into a vertical position.
Holy shit. Oh my god, this is the type of freak type of thing that just can happen, and even you have the most brilliant engineers out there. How do you foresee every single possible thing that could go wrong? And maybe they could have, I don't know. You would think they would have stopped the conveyor belt. But, you know, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but that's what you would think. Holy shit.
4 of the occupants of Raft 2 were thrown out and onto the conveyor belt.
Oh my god.
The conveyor belt was, at this stage, still moving.
I don't like
The
this.
victims were either dragged beneath the stranded raft and crushed, or fell through the gaps in the belt and became trapped in the machinery beneath. All 4 of them were killed.
Well, that was the most gruesome thing I've heard in a long time. Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
There were 2 survivors.
I know this is horrible, but yeah, I mean, the whole point of this video is for me to say what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking is how horrifying that would be for the 2 people. Those are your friends. Presumably they're the ones that survived are the ones up here, strapped in. And you watch your 4 friends fall in. Damn.
There were 2 survivors from Raft 2, both children. They were able to cling onto the raft even in its vertical position, and later clamber to safety once the conveyor belt had stopped. The ride was evacuated, and the park closed as a recovery operation took place. Even once all the water had been drained from the ride, it took until the next morning to retrieve the bodies. The process of doing so was so traumatic that some of the paramedics involved required counselling once it was complete.
My god. Holy crap. This is horrible. This is so horrible. I just need like a second. Alright. Onward. Wow.
The park remained closed for a month, both out of respect for the dead and to allow an investigation to be completed. The results of this investigation would take several years to emerge, but when they did, they were damning. There had been a litany of failures on the part of the park.
Really?
Rudimentary safety features had not been implemented on the ride, even though they would have been extremely inexpensive. There was no automatic water level indicator, for example. No holistic risk assessment had been completed, and the task of identifying risks was left to the staff of the ride, none of them trained engineers.
What?
Maintenance staff did not know the location of the emergency stop button in the main control room, and never tested it.
What? That's why? That's why it wasn't freaking stopped? Are you joking?
improvements to safety features were deferred because of budgetary concerns. Record keeping was described as shoddy. The ride was described as completely unsafe, and it was concluded that there had been failures on the part of everybody at the park.
Wow. That's unreal, man. And I bet you part of it goes back to what I said about this ride. On its surface, seems like one of the most safe rides at the park. It's pretty simple. You're in a raft. You go around a little man-made river. That's it. What's going to go wrong? Like, a conveyor belt brings it back up. They got to at least know where the stop button is. Holy.
It is important.
What a horrible way. What a tragic thing for that to happen. Particularly at an amusement park. You know what I mean? What a horrible way to go. Just totally unfair. They're out there having fun. And then, yeah.
Important to note that these criticisms were directed specifically at the Dreamworld Thunder River Rapids ride.
Uh-huh.
Other rides of this type, when properly managed and risk assessed, are extremely safe for guests.
Well, I'm definitely going to be puckered up anytime I go on one of these in the future. Even knowing, okay, it's made by different people.
Dreamworld cooperated fully with the investigation, and when charges were finally laid against them under the Work Health and Safety Act in July 2020, they pled guilty without hesitation.
I mean, that's noble, I guess.
The parent company of the theme park, Ardent Leisure, received a fine of $3.6 million, the largest fine ever handed out for a workplace tragedy in Queensland.
Okay. I'm okay. It doesn't seem very high to me, but I mean, I don't know. I guess you don't want to put them out of business unless you do.
The ride itself was demolished in November 2016.
Yeah.
And Dreamworld plans to build a memorial garden in its place.
Wow.
They have invited those affected by the tragedy to be involved in its design. An offer
that is commendable. At least. You know what I mean? A lot of companies would try to cover something like this up and brush past it, say they had nothing to do with it, and pretend it never happened.
which has angered some of the survivors' families, as they are
Oh, it did? It angered them?
design. They have invited those affected by the tragedy to be involved in its design. An offer which has angered some of the survivors' families, as they are still awaiting actual compensation from the park.
Oh, okay. They're still awaiting compensation. Where did that fine go to? Shouldn't that go to the families?
The victims of this disaster included Kate Goodchild, who boarded the ride with her 12-year-old daughter, her brother, Luke Dorset, and his partner, Rusbeh Aragi. Kate's daughter was the only one from that group to survive. Also killed was Cindy Lowe. Her 10-year-old son was the only other survivor from the affected raft.
Wow. That's amazing that those two kids survived.
All 4 victims were on holiday. They had visited Dreamworld to experience its rides and roller coasters, fully believing that these attractions were safe.
Yeah.
This was,
I mean, that's something that you do put your faith in those anytime you do. I mean, that kind of goes with anything in life. You put your faith in the car manufacturer that your car's not going to blow up. You put your faith in the roads that they're not going to cave in. You put your faith in the roller coaster that it's been safety checked. You put your faith in the airline, Boeing, that they've done their job. You know what I mean? And sometimes it does not pan out how it should.
a reasonable belief as many regulatory standards exist to ensure that amusement park rides are as safe as possible.
Yeah.
The incident at Dreamworld, which cost them their lives, shows, however, that these standards can only work when ride owners and operators actually deign to apply them. Dreamworld overhauled its safety procedures across the park and reopened a month after the tragedy. It has continued to operate ever since.
Wow. So did it, I guess it didn't, like, it had to have negatively affected their whatever you call it. You know, how many people went there? It had to have, to some extent. But I guess they're still in business. Wow. Wow. That was sad. I'm just looking them up. Dream World. They've got a good rating. Holy crap. That was crazy. What a tragic story. Tragic story. I mean, I guess I'm going to react to the park like I had originally intended to. React to the park maybe like next week. But this definitely put a little bit of a damper on that. But anyway, that was really a fascinating story. Go check out Fascinating Horror, link down below. Wow. Be safe out there, folks. Or, you know, do your best. I'll see you next time, tomorrow.